Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? My name is Rob Carmona, and welcome back to another episode of Rob the Mic. For this week's episode, I want to do a small recap on last week because there's a specific piece in last week's episode that seemed to hit home for quite a few people. And the specific part that I'm talking about is where I was talking about developing new foundations and the importance of that. So last week, I was talking about kind of a reference of a house, as if you are a house, right? Like kind of where you hear the whole thing of like, oh, your body is a temple. I'm talking about it in that sense, and how codes are constantly being brought up, right? Like when you actually buy like a real home, right? Let's say you buy a home from the 1950s today. You want to start doing some work on your house, and all of a sudden you have to start bringing these things up to code. Your electrical, your plumbing, all of that stuff, right? And I feel like we as people are the same way. We start to evolve, we start to change, or it's the opposite, where you kind of feel the same. It's been stagnant for a while, but everything else around you is still changing. Everything else around you is updating. The codes are constantly being updated, but you've stayed the same. So there comes a time that you're going to have to actually face the music and say, okay, well, I got to do some self-work. I got to get this stuff done. But in order for me to do that, I need to level up. These codes have to get updated. I have to do better for myself. And I honestly didn't think that section was gonna, not that it wasn't gonna hit the way it did, but again, there's certain people that really found it to be something special. So I figured, you know what? Why not make an episode about it? And this is also something that's pretty near and dear to me as well, because I think it's something that I've been doing over the last few months and that I will continue to do for, the rest of my life for sure, but at least in the right now, it is something I'm currently working on in multiple ways. Like I'm trying to update my codes. I'm trying to get myself to a better place to where I feel better about myself. And so I can be a better person overall for everyone around me. So the same way I did last week's episode is kind of the way I want to do this week's episode. So we have our main topic, right? So it's kind of the whole thing of new foundations, but there are certain things within new foundations that I want to talk to you guys about. And the first thing is the whole idea of personal development and growth, and just a couple little topics that kind of fall under that. Like I think the number one thing is setting goals, and setting those goals. It can be big, it can be small, it can be on the daily, it can be something that you want to accomplish 6 months from now. I think it's very important to have goals set. And I think we need to start at the dailies. We need to start small, because sometimes when you think too far ahead, I think for a lot of us, it develops a lot of anxiety, because you start to see it as like it's still a goal, but it starts to become a chore to get there. And that's where things start to get a little bit skewed, because you shouldn't view setting these goals as a chore. This should be something positive. This should be something that you're excited about, that you want to work towards, that you want to put energy into. And why would you want to put energy into something that brings you stress, that brings you anxiety? And it's one thing to be excited, because I understand there's a very fine line between like that being excited type of anxiety, and then you have that just like stress inducing anxiety. But this setting goals for this type of thing, for personal growth, I think should never, ever, ever, ever have any sort of negative impact on you. And if it does, then I think things need to be reassessed. Take a step back, look at it and say, okay, you know what? Is this really for me? Should I really be setting this kind of goal? Like you have to be very cognizant of that. Very, very cognizant of that. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the next thing, which is you want to build positive habits. Because I think if you build those positive habits, it will contribute to you setting goals, right? So let's say setting an example of a positive habit. Let's say getting all your meals. For a lot of us, we tend to not eat, let's say your 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day, whatever it is that you do. Some of us will only eat once a day. That is a horrible habit. Absolutely horrible. That has to get taken care of right away for multiple reasons, right? Your body's not getting the nutrients it needs. You don't have the energy to burn, nothing. You're completely dead. So if you don't have any of that, right? Let's say you're completely worn out. There's no way you can put energy and time into something else, especially if it's for yourself. You'll start to put all those things on the back burner, and then that's where things start to fall down. And slowly, even if they're small goals, you're going to start kind of pulling away from that goal. I'm too tired. I'll do this tomorrow. I'm feeling a little bit out of it. I'll do this tomorrow. Or I'll do this later. I'll do this later. Later's become tomorrows. Tomorrows become the next day. The next day becomes weeks, months, and years. And all of a sudden, that one goal that you had that was a very small thing became something that was very big. And you pushed it out so far that it seems almost unattainable. And that's what you have to be really careful about. Because I think during this process of personal growth, you can spiral down a really dark hole, and you can make it seem like everything is so far away. And like a good reference I just thought about right now is kind of like in the movie Batman, like one of the Batmans with Christian Bale. And it's like the story of him getting out of that hole, right? Where he's in that prison at the bottom of that hole, and how eventually he is able to get out, right? But you set something so far away that you can slowly work towards that goal and actually get yourself out of that hole, versus kind of stacking and going further down into that hole. Because at that point, you're never going to get out. It seems to get further away mentally, physically. You start to reach this really dark place, and you almost feel like you're incapable of doing something like that. You're incapable of reaching that point. When in reality, if you slow down, you dissect it a little differently, you realize it's not that hard to get to. It might take a little bit of work. Sometimes it might take a lot of work depending on what you're trying to do and the goal you're trying to set. But if you just kind of slowly inch toward it, you're going to slowly get closer. You get what I'm saying? Like it starts to become not as far away because you took one step closer. So one of the hard things about all of that too is finding the constant motivation to create a stronger foundation for personal success and personal growth. Because I think if we don't have that sort of motivation, we don't have a reason to keep pushing forward, you start to kind of lose track. You start to let things go. I think for a lot of us, we put the source of motivation into something else rather than ourselves being the source of motivation. And the danger of that is if you put your source of motivation into something or someone else, if that element itself, that person, whatever it may be, is removed from the equation, realize that you no longer have what was driving you. You no longer have the motivation to push you. And all of a sudden, you're left with yourself. And if you didn't believe in yourself in the first place, and you didn't establish that sort of foundation for yourself to where you yourself can push yourself every single day to move forward, then what are you supposed to do now? Right? Because that thing that you had is now gone. So we have to be able to walk slowly with ourselves, give ourselves the gas and say, yo, like, you did a great job today. And hey, you hit this goal. You hit this thing. That's amazing. That's amazing. You have to keep inching forward. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for you having to drive yourself being so important. And I'm not talking about developing this sort of like major hyper independence. It's not what I'm talking about, because I think it can kind of get misconstrued that way. But I think you do need to have that sort of self-love, that self-worth, and work on gaining that and work on getting it to this place so that you can grow, push yourself. And when you start developing more of these positive mental things, telling yourself that you can do it and showing yourself that you can do it, slowly meeting these goals, and you start to create, like we were just talking about, positive habits, positive reinforcement, positive things for yourself. You are showing yourself that you can do it. And when you start to reach these little goals, you're going to start to expand your goals. They're going to start to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I mean by that is maybe, let's say you want to start getting up early every day, right? Or earlier. How about that? For some people, let's say they get up for work, depending on what your work situation is. Let's say you get up at 9 o'clock every day, but you want to start your day earlier. So you start waking up at 8:30. You get used to that. You hit that goal point, you start to feel stable, and you're like, okay, let's go a half hour earlier now. You start to get up at 8 and you hit that. You start to get up and you're doing it and you're like, wow, okay, cool. Like you're starting to show yourself that you can hit it. Then it's 7:30. And then let's say it's 7. You start realizing you're like, I'm able to do this. I am able to make these things happen. I'm creating positive habits. So you want to go to bed earlier. You start to slowly do that. Next thing you know, you're going to bed early. You're waking up feeling energized. You're feeling good about yourself. And it's so important to do that. And again, it can be small things, small things. I want to smile today. I want to find a reason to smile today, every single day. I want to listen to certain music that I want to listen to because it makes me feel good. It makes me happy. So do that. Set those goals. I don't think anything is too little or too big or silly or anything like that. I think a goal is a goal. It doesn't have to be this really immense thing. I think sometimes we get overwhelmed as people. And I think with the societal pressures, it gets put on us that when you hear the whole quote unquote setting goals, that it has to be this major thing. Like, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And, I'm going to have a full family, 3 kids by the time I'm 40 and all this. And it's like, not that those goals aren't attainable, but if you really think about it, there's a massive stress that comes with hitting those points, right? Becoming a millionaire by the time you're 30, having a full family by the time you're 40, if that's something that you want. Because not that those things aren't attainable, but if you started on a small scale, you can show yourself, and then maybe you actually can work to something like that because you've shown yourself, hey, I wanted to hit these certain points in my life and I did hit these points. And if I continue to do that by developing these positive habits, I will eventually get to a place where I know myself and my heart, my soul, my mind, that I can accomplish anything I want. So it's kind of reinventing your brain and kind of rewiring things a little bit, right? And it's just like we're talking about, which is a big part of this episode. You're updating your codes, you're updating your wiring, you're updating the infrastructure so that you can handle everything that you're trying to throw at it. Because again, if you have a house built in the 1950s and all of a sudden you're putting a bunch of brand new technology from today's day and age, right? 2023, TVs, Bluetooth this, Wi-Fi that, everything like that. That house can't handle that infrastructure. It can't. It does because it doesn't have it. It doesn't have the wiring. It doesn't have the shielding. It doesn't have everything that you need. But if you took your time, you had the right team around you, because you do need to build a team for stuff like this, right? It's just like every construction company has a bunch of people that do a bunch of different things, and collectively they all make something amazing. But if you develop that team around you, you can redo what you need to redo, update everything, bring it up to code for yourself. And all of a sudden you realize, damn, like I can handle all this shit. I can handle all these really crazy things that life is throwing at me. And now all of a sudden I can start to plan more. I can start to see where I can fit in my workouts. I can start to see how I can eat healthier. I can start to see how I can get more rest. But we need to slowly start. And it doesn't matter, again, how big or how small, but start somewhere. That I will tell you, because it makes a difference. It makes a really, really big difference just to start. And the next big thing, I think that has to do with like setting a foundation, because I think some people forget this is a major part, which is work, career per se. And I think sometimes you have to set new career goals. Possibly it means going back to school, shifting where you are, what you're doing. Sometimes maybe even dropping what you thought you wanted, pursuing your own business and the struggles in that, but that it can also teach you a lot, and it can teach you a lot about the people around you. But setting new career goals and going back to school, that whole thing, I mean, I've been in that shoe before, or I've been in that situation before, because I did it. I worked in the tech industry. Well, technically, I guess you can say, like, within low voltage, I was doing like sound and CCTV for a very, very long time. And I had hit a certain point where I got my fiber certification and I was doing really well for myself. Like financially, I was doing really well for myself. The hours were horrible, but I was doing really well. And all my bills were taken care of. I was able to help my family and then some, but I wasn't happy. I was miserable. Like going to work every single day, I was fucking miserable. I don't think I had ever been that unhappy in a work position in a long time. Just like emotionally, I wasn't being treated poorly or anything like that, but I just wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. So on my way to work one day, or one night, I should say, because I was working overnight at this time, I passed my school that I ended up going to for art school, and I made the jump. Because for me, that was something that I had to do. It was something that I wanted to do. And I'm glad that I did, because it opened my eyes to show me that I was capable of doing exactly what I wanted to set out to do. because I started to believe that, not that I couldn't make it happen, but that it was almost unattainable because of where I was. Because I was going to sacrifice everything. There was no way that I could work that job and go to school at the same time. Just because of the hours, it was really bad because it was hard labor through the night. It was running wires, installing speakers, cameras, like doing internet, doing processing, doing fiber work, testing, all this shit. So it's constant work. And there was no way I was going to be able to show up for school the next day. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to walk away from this. I'm going to gamble and throw this away. And of course, the thing is, if it didn't work out with school, I would have been able to fall back on that, which is nice. But I had to put my time in. And I was in a position that I could gamble that. So I did. I went back to school, did my thing, and I reinvented that for myself. I set a new foundation. I already had something built and it was going well. But again, I started to hit a point where I wasn't happy. I needed to update things. I needed a change. Everything just felt the same. And I was like, I can't work and do this for the rest of my life. There's no way. So I set a new foundation. I set a new place to stand on. I felt like I was moving into a new house. It took me a while to build it, but I did it and I don't regret it. I think it was the greatest thing I could have done because it set me up even for stuff like this. You know, I wouldn't have known fully how to use recording equipment, fully how to use camera equipment the way that I do. My computer setup, all of that stuff. Like it all led me to where I'm at today, which is really weird, but very thankful. Very, very thankful through and through. And sometimes you have to shift where you are and what you're doing. And it's scary. It's really, 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 really scary. It's the scariest thing you can do, especially when you're sacrificing something that brings you stability for something that could also bring you stability, but it's like, it's in the future. You won't have that stability right now. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take energy, every part of you, but it's worth it, right? So you kind of have to weigh it out because sometimes that type of thing doesn't work out for everyone. And maybe it's not for everybody. I don't think just like dropping out, like dropping your work, dropping your thing. Like if you can do that, then great. And because you want to pursue something, then do it. But I was already tiptoeing in design. I had already been designing for a while. And this was something that I knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted it to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And I wanted to have the tools and the know-how and the understanding because of where I wanted to go with it. I wanted to get to a point where I could look around and see billboards that I made. I wanted to go to trade shows and see product stands that I developed. I wanted to see marketing that I did. I wanted to open up social media stuff and see things that I created with my hands, with my mind, everything. So I had to chase it. I had to make it happen. I gambled it. I set a new foundation. I set goals. They were very, very small goals at first, especially through school, but I started to hit them further and further and further. And I mean, like scholastically, that was something that I was constantly doing where I was like, okay, like I want to get a B on this, right? And I'd hit that. And I'm like, cool, I hit that goal because it was something really difficult. Or like, okay, cool, I want to get an A on this. Cool, I hit that. I start hitting those things, get it higher and higher and higher. Okay, I want my GPA to be this. I'd start hitting that. Say, okay, 3.0. Okay, let's go, 3.25. Okay, let's go 3.5, 3.75. Let's hit 4.0. Let's see if I can break 4.0. And when I started to hit those things, it showed me because I needed that. I'm a result driven person. I need to see results to gas me up because it shows me that what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I think a lot of us are like that as well. Like I think we all need something to show us, hey, you're heading in the right direction. Keep going. So reinventing your career, shifting what you're doing, shifting your focus can help you with that sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time. I'm not telling you guys to go drop out of your job and, for example, start your own business, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you got to make the jump because buying a home, making that kind of investment is really scary. For some people, it's the scariest thing they'll do, right? Because you're signing up. And for some people, it's going to be for the rest of their lives. So it's like, oh shit, here we go. Here we go. Let's see what happens, right? But I think when you put yourself in those positions, you kind of show what you're made of. And it's cool when you get to realize that moment that you hit it and you did it and you made it and you're capable. And I think that in itself, like showing yourself that you're capable means a lot. Because I know for me, as I've gotten older with the things that I've had to endure, it shows me what I'm really capable of. And the fact that, not that things keep getting worse, But as things progressively get more and more difficult, I realize what I'm able to carry, what I'm able to handle for myself and for the people around me. And then I built a strong enough network of people that I really trust with my life, that I know that, let's say I can't handle something, that I can reach out to someone to help me hold this wall up. And it's important. It's very, very important. So going back to the reinventing your career and kind of looking at that sort of subject, I think if you're going to pursue something, look at it, examine it with your heart, your mind, your soul, and say, is this really what I want? And for some time, or for some people in certain situations, maybe you can start pursuing it on the side. Maybe it's your side hustle. And then at one point, that side hustle can literally just tidal over what you're doing. And next thing you know, you're doing what you love for the rest of your life. But I think, especially on that side, like owning your own business, there's a ton of struggles that come with it, but it teaches you a lot. It teaches you patience. I think it teaches you resilience. I know for myself, especially since my journey after Four Wheel Parts, I've definitely learned a lot going back out on my own. And it's been a massive struggle, and I'm trying really hard to be patient with myself and understanding, but it's tough. Owning your own business is tough. Jumping into that field of self-supporting is really difficult, but it doesn't mean that you quit. And I know for myself, like, I have no plan on quitting. This isn't like a letting you guys know I'm quitting what I'm doing, but I got to keep moving. I have to keep moving because I've been in situations that are a lot worse, and I was able to get myself out of it. And it's because of what I know that I've done in the past. And see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if I look back, I look at what I've already gone through, what I've already dealt with, and I'm like, you know what? This is just a slight bump. It's not a big deal. Compared to that, this is a slight bump. Let's keep it moving. So if this is something that you're dealing with right now, reinventing your career, you don't feel fulfilled, you feel like I'm kind of stuck, I'm somewhere in this hole and I can't really get out, take a step back. Take a step back. Your job is not your life. Your career is not your life. Nor should it be. You should have multiple facets of your life and keep them compartmentalized, right? Like, work is work. When you're out, sometimes I understand it's hard to not bring work home. Let's say you want to vent, you want to talk about it, then do that. But after that, kill it. Or leave it inside your car. Leave it at work. As soon as you walk out of whatever building you work at, let it go. Whatever, let's say you work from home. Set a designated area. And when you walk away from that area, cool. I'm not at work anymore. We're done. We're not doing this. But look at what makes you happy. And if you need to reset, if you need something else to drive you, then go do it. Look for it. Check it out. Because it's going to change things. I'm telling you, for myself, I did it and it changed my life. And a lot of it was for the better. I have zero regrets on what I did. It was a massive jump. It was really scary, but I have no regrets. No, zero, none. So take it from someone who did it. If you're thinking about doing it, run it up, make it happen. Check it out. The next big thing I think is like hobbies, any sort of like creative pursuit. I think that is really important too. And sometimes it helps you create a new foundation. And I think constantly developing new hobbies, interests, anything like that is really important because you need that in your mind. Your mind, you're constantly running with thoughts and you need to exert that somewhere. And when you find something new that grabs your attention, you have to nurture that because there's a reason why you gravitated towards that. Whatever hobby it may be, there's a reason why you enjoy it. Search that, look into that, go into that little quest because it's bringing you joy. And I think we need to, as people, realize we need more joy in our lives. We need things that bring happiness. Why would you not want to have a life full of happiness and things that make you happy? If you don't have anything that makes you happy, that's an issue, right? Like, I'm sure even as I said it, it's like, damn, dude, but there really are some people out there that just don't find happiness in things. But it's like, well, what if you did something that you loved, or if there was something that you really like? Say you like to collect certain things, right? Like, go collect those things. And then maybe you make a little display in your room and all of a sudden you get to see a collection of things that you have. Let's say it's even something as simple as pins. Say you really like pins and for some reason you don't buy them. Start buying them. Next thing you know, you have a collection on your wall. And every time you go into your office or wherever you set it up, you're like, oh, this is cool. You know, this is something that I actually really like. I enjoy this. then go do that. Or for myself, I mean, one of my creative outlets, one of my many, on top of like photo, video, and stuff like that, a big one is cars. I love the automotive industry, whether it's a car or a truck. If it's got 4 wheels, I love it. And I own a couple of things myself. I work on them. I put the time, and it makes me happy. It makes me feel fulfilled. I love working with my hands. I love working with my hands. Anytime I can do something, if I don't know how to do it, I want to learn how to do it. Even if whether it's fabrication, I've never done it before, I want to learn how to do it. Metalworking, I don't know how to do it, but I want to learn how to do it. Interior stuff, sewing, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to learn how to do it. And that's how I've done a majority of my cars, is learning, trying to figure it out, using my hands. Because it makes me happy. I feel fulfilled. It's something that I want to put time into because it gives me so much. And it's given me so much for myself. Even the people like around me, I've gained so many people in my life, and pretty much everyone, now that I think about it, aside from, there's a couple that haven't, but a lot of the people in my life have come from that side, from the automotive world. Some of the closest friends that I have, period. Like Rob, Albert, Jay, Yessie, Sabrina, all these people, like, they're very important to me. And I've met them because of this hobby that I have. It brought me to these really amazing people. And I'm very fortunate because, especially right now, I mean, shit, those people are the ones that have got me out of the holes that I've been in. It's been really rough, and there's no way I could have done it on my own. And you know what? Maybe I don't give myself enough credit. Maybe I could have done it on my own. It would have taken me a lot longer. Probably wouldn't be anywhere near where I'm at right now. And I'm very thankful for that. So developing new hobbies or jumping into hobbies that you used to have because they make you happy, you never know where it's going to take you, who it can bring into your life, where it can take you in general. It's amazing. But sometimes you got to just let those things happen and jump back into it. Whether you were happy when you were a kid, try it again. Maybe it makes you happy. If it makes you happy as an adult, you want to start baking? Start baking. Go make a pie. Go make a cake. You want to start cooking? Go cook. You want to go make some chicken? You want to learn how to make steak? Go make a steak. Just do it. Like, honestly, what's stopping you? That you're going to fail? You're going to fuck it up? Probably. Especially if it's your first time, you're probably going to do that. It's probably not going to be everything that you thought it was. But if you put time in and you nurture that, that's what's going to get you what you need, because we need creative outlets. They contribute to us as people. They help us grow. They help us move to a happier place. And if you can start to spread that, like for myself, all these things that I'm telling you guys are coming from a very personal place. A very, very personal place. The hobbies that I have, I nurture them and I move towards them. And I shift my hobbies all the time. All the time. Sometimes I get really into photography and I start shooting a lot. Sometimes I get really into video. I start doing a lot of video. Sometimes I get really into design work, like on my own. And I start messing with typography and start jumping back. And I have to do that. I have to feed, because I feel like I have a bunch of little monsters. It's kind of like the movie, I want to say it's like from the late 80s, maybe early 90s, but it's like late 80s-ish. Around that time, there's a movie called Creatures. Like, I feel like I have a bunch of those little creatures, and I need to feed them. They all have different feeding times, and I need to feed them. And that's all of my hobbies, because I really do have a lot. There's things I like to collect. There's stuff, places I like to go, things I like to see, and I consider them hobbies. I do. Like this past weekend, I got to feed one of my monsters. I got to go off-roading with one of my buddies, Sebastian, and it was rad because it was just supposed to be an off-roading trip. That's it. We went up to Calico, super rad. We hit a really badass trail that was cool. It was pretty aggressive. I enjoyed myself. But the best part about it, I got to spend time with him, which is incredible. And I got to meet a bunch of new people that were so much fun. They were so nice. And I'm like, you see what I'm talking about? This is what it's all about. This hobby brought me to this place that had me meet these people, and I just expanded my network. And it was a completely new group because for him, like my buddy Sebastian, he has a Jeep. And I mean, as some of you know, I don't have a Jeep. I have a Toyota. I have an FJ Cruiser. Completely different realm, completely different group of people. Not that Toyota people and Jeep people don't coincide, but they tend to be separate in a way. But getting to go on that side was tight because I'm just like, dude, this is cool. A whole new group of people, a whole new platform, because the platform in itself is so interesting. Like Jeeps are really interesting. Just the way they work, suspension geometry, capabilities, all of that, motors, like just the way they run, all the electronics that they have now, especially on the newer Jeeps. It was something new, and it opened my eyes. It opened every part of that, and I got excited again. And I took my camera, I started shooting, and I had just taken it because I was like, I'll take some pictures. I'll do some things here and there. I ended up taking some really rad pictures, and I'm actually going to be posting those pictures today on my personal Instagram because that's another one too. Like that, I'm feeding those little monsters, again, those little creatures. Because like I'm starting to post again on my Instagram. I'm starting to post more of my content again because it makes me happy. It really, truly does. Like I love showing you guys my work. And I had reached a point where I didn't want to do that. I kind of stayed in the dark about it. Because I was in a bad place, right? Like I've been in a really bad spot, and I still don't feel like I'm fully okay. And I think it's going to be a very long time before I ever am fully okay. And it's fine to feel that way. It's okay to be that way. But I need to continue feeding these things. I need to continue feeding this creative side and because this sort of pursuit, it's like it gives me some sort of like a pursuit of happiness. Feeding these creative creatures makes me move forward, and it makes me feel more fulfilled, and I start to feel complete. Makes me feel like I can walk out there and like I can do anything. If I have my camera with me, I feel strong. If I have certain things with me, if I'm driving around in the cars that I've built, like I feel strong, I feel accomplished, I feel like worthy because I'm in something that helps me push out. It's a vessel, it's a vehicle to move forward. No, not trying to like be super literal, right? Because that's some of these things that I actually enjoy are vehicles, but I don't mean it that way. Like I mean it just as like something to help me propel forward. So I think if you're looking for something, if you're curious about something, chase that curiosity. Chase it. Even if it doesn't work out, even if you're experimenting, you going and experimenting is going to drive you to experiment with something else because maybe it will lead you down another path. For example, again, with cooking, let's say you really want to try cooking. Turns out you don't like cooking, but you ended up making something that had like a pastry top. Maybe you made like a shepherd's pie type of situation. And for some reason, you really enjoyed that. All of a sudden, okay, well, I started cooking, but now I'm going to start baking. You start baking and you really love it. That ends up being your thing. You wouldn't have got to baking if you didn't start cooking. And that's what I'm talking about. Be aware of that because some of those the paths that you go down, there's going to be little doors that you can go into. And maybe one of those doors is going to send you exactly where you were supposed to go. And it's because of that creative pursuit. So don't ignore that. Don't sell yourself short and don't tell yourself that you can't do something because you need to just try. You know what I mean? Don't knock it before you try it type of situation. So just go and do it. Go find something and go make it happen because it's tight and it's going to give you a lot more than you thought you ever could give yourself. It's one of the best gifts, in my opinion. And another thing I think that's really important with this whole new foundation subject is rebuilding relationships. Whether it's recovering from a breakup, reconnecting with friends and family. I think sometimes we have to assess our current relationships and whether it's like with your friends in a romantic sense or your family and what they bring to your table, Like I know recovering from a breakup, coming from myself, right? Like I can tell you guys from experience, it really forces you to redo your foundation. Because you thought you had set something very, very solid to stand on, something very solid to just be. And when that thing crumbles, completely falls apart, and you get fucked up in the process, you actually get hurt. You become completely damaged and everything around you is damaged. Where you stood is now just complete rubble. It's down to pieces. You can't go anywhere. You can't step anywhere without getting hurt. You reconnecting with yourself. And when you start talking about all the things that I was talking about before this, right? The hobbies, career, personal development and growth, like all those things, when you start to put back into those things, you start to set a new foundation. You start to put pieces back, maybe even sweep all those pieces out, get rid of everything, and you start to set a new frame. You're pouring concrete again. And maybe it's going to take you some time, right? Because it's a pretty big area that you're creating. But eventually that concrete's going to dry and you're going to have something to stand on. You're going to start to build walls. You're going to start to build, and I don't mean walls like not letting people in, but you're going to start to build everything around you so that you feel safe again. So you feel like I have a home again. And I know, again, for myself, having gone through that, I'm trying to do that now. Trying to set a new base, set a new foundation. I'm redoing things. I'm reconnecting with myself, with my friends, and reconnecting with a lot of those relationships, especially on the friend side. Like, it's not that I completely dropped off the face of the earth and I stopped talking to my friends, even when I was in my last relationship, because that's not what happened at all. I'm still having to reconnect with them so that they can understand that I'm different, that things have changed, and that maybe I don't feel the same way that I did before. You know, maybe I'm a lot more sensitive in certain areas. Maybe I have a lot more stuff to say. Maybe I want to share more things. And it's going to change that relationship dynamic. I know for a lot of the people that are around me, it's definitely strengthened it, because I've become a lot more open, a lot more vulnerable with them about certain subjects that I was actually really scared to share with them. Because not that, I guess you can ultimately say, but not because of like a judgment, but just, I guess in a sense, yeah, like being judged, like, cause you're scared, right? You're creeping into a territory that you're dropping the veil more and more and more. And it's a scary thing to do, especially when you've been hurt, when you've been dragged through the mud, when you've been abandoned, when you've been left, and you start to carry that and you're like, damn, are these people going to leave me? Are these people going to run when I say something? So recovering from a breakup and reconnecting with people around you is very, very important. And this is just for myself, or this is something that, an example, right? But reconnecting with your friends, reconnecting with people around you, it's almost like the hobbies and the creative pursuits, because again, maybe it's something that brought you happiness before. And if certain people made you happy, then why would you not want those people back? Reach out, say what's up. Maybe you reconnect with someone, all of a sudden you guys are going on trips and the friendship is just incredible. It's better than it ever was. And maybe you need that right now. Maybe your soul needs that. Run into it. Check it out. It's not going to hurt. I promise that. It's not going to hurt. And assessing your current relationships, like stepping back and looking at what friends bring to the table, what your romantic partner brings to the table, family, that type of stuff is really important too. Because I think, and you know what, I don't even think, like, I know that things change. And right now, like for me, things are changing, and I'm noticing that certain things that made me happy are no longer making me happy. Being around certain groups of people are no longer giving me what it used to give me. And it's no offense to them. This is nothing personal. I'm just changing. I'm shifting. Things in my life are changing. Things that I used to find important, I no longer find important, or I see them just completely differently now. So, right, I'm looking at the shift. And I'm saying, all right, what is it that I need? Where do I need to be? What are the people that give me, like, who fills my cup, right? Like we've talked about before. That's the easiest way to put it. Who's filling my cup and who's draining it? And standing back and looking at it, I'm starting to narrow and hone in on where I need to be, who I need to be around, the situations I like to be in, things I don't like to be around, people I don't like to be around, all of that. I'm very hyper aware of that. And what the people that are seated at my table right now, they've proved themselves to me. Not that anyone has to prove yourself, like, not that you have to prove yourself to anyone, but your people who love you, the people who care about you, will always prove that to you. They will show you in multiple ways. And that's going to earn them a seat at your table. Right now, I feel like my table's in a very good place. Everyone that's there wants to be there. It's not this weird, forced situation. I don't have any sort of like doubts. I don't have anything against any of these people, because they're all here for the same reason. Because they want to be in my life. They're active and they try and they show me that they care. And because I do the same thing for them. I'm active in their lives. I show them that I care. I show them that I love them. I tell them that I love them. And that's what I need. I need that sort of support. I need that sort of that that foundation, right? They are a part of my foundation. I need them. I really would be lost without them. And I'm thankful day in and day out to have these people that are seated there. Day in and day out, especially even some of the newer people, even some of the newer ones that have kind of come around and they've started to set their bounds too and show me. And I'm like, dang, dude, these people are really rad. Because sometimes I feel like time does have something to do with it. You know, like how long someone's been in your life. I think that can affect it. But sometimes there's people who come out of nowhere and they do more for you than your friendships that you've had of 5, 10 plus years. Because maybe this person's intentions are really incredible. And maybe that's what they're seeking. They're seeking a really meaningful friendship, a really meaningful family-like type of connection. And you give that to them. And they show you. So it's things like that. Like you got to be aware of, right? You're aware of it, you accept it, and it can take you somewhere. And those new pieces are what set your foundation. They keep you moving forward. They keep the building process, and they just make you stronger and stronger and stronger, right? And I think with all that being said, the last thing I want to talk about was like the self-care and like the mindfulness practices, I guess you could say. Whether you have like daily self-care rituals, you know, meditation, journaling, working out, how to incorporate those practices, I think is also really important because sometimes we don't know how to do that. And like nurturing your mind, your body, and your soul, because you got to do it. I think having these little rituals, you know, even if it's, for example, a 10-minute meditation, to set that time and do that, to sit there, to sit in your mind, sit in your thoughts, deep breaths, whether it's a guided meditation or you create your own, it's important. Do that. If you need to journal, you need time to write stuff down, to reflect on your day. Maybe you do it once a week, whatever that is. It's another thing, kind of references back to the beginning, right? Where you set goals. Maybe you have a goal to meditate once a day. So do that. Maybe start with a 5-minute and then start to grow to a 10-minute. Next thing you know, you're meditating for a half an hour, maybe even an hour. You're feeding yourself, you're feeding your soul, you're building something inside of you that is positive, and you need that. Journaling, again, maybe you journal once a week. And then next thing you know, you go from once a week, you start doing it 3 times a week, and then it's every day. And it's a part of you setting and building positive habits. Just like we were talking about earlier. It's a very important thing. So set that, do that. It's for you. It's not for anyone else. These things that we're talking about right now are specifically and only for you. But the thing is, when you put this time into yourself, the people around you who really want to be around you will notice these things. And who knows, maybe it'll affect them too. Dang, you seem a little bit different. What have you been doing lately? Honestly, dude, like I've been meditating. And it helps me a lot. Really? Like, you know what? I should start meditating. Check it out. See what's up. Next thing you know, it affects them. They start doing it the same way you did it. Maybe they started a couple minutes here and there, do it every couple days, maybe once a week. Next thing you know, they're doing it every day, and it's a part of their everyday routine, and it is a healthy habit to pursue. And I think exercise is another one too. Whether it's exercising your mind, exercising your body, make the time for it, right? And when people wonder like, oh, well, how do I incorporate that? Incorporate it in your free time. We all have free time. We all make time for the things we want to make time for. And especially on the workout side, like I know it can be hard, right? Because you have this whole idea of like, oh, I got to go to a gym. I got to do this, got to do that. You don't have to. Go on a walk. Go on a 10-minute walk in your neighborhood. Go do that. Next thing you know, you're going on 20-minute walks, 30-minute walks. You're going on hikes for an hour. You're hitting the gym. You're doing the damn thing. You start to feel better. You're exercising your mind, your body, your soul, because it's feeding all of that. Everything is intertwined. If you feel good, you exert this energy. You put something out into the world. And also you show yourself. You look into the mirror and you kind of sense it. You feel it. You wake up in the morning, you start to take breaths differently. You start to kind of navigate things differently because you're feeding and you're nurturing every part of yourself. We have to do that. It's very, very important to nurture every aspect of ourselves, our mind, our body, our soul, what we see on a daily basis. Let it be positive things. What we speak, let it be positivity. What you feel, let it be something good. You want yourself to feel good, right? Like you eat good food, you eat things that are, let's say, clean, it's just not super processed. You start to feel better, right? Because you're eating cleaner. Your body's like, yo, like I feel good. I don't feel super weighed down. I don't feel this type of heaviness that I used to feel, right? Let's say you're used to eating hella fast food. You stay on Jack in the Box, Carl's, Cane's, whatever it may be. All of a sudden you shift up, you start eating a little bit better. Maybe a little more grilled chicken here and there, maybe a little bit more, salads here and there. You start to clean yourself up. More fruits, veggies, start doing protein powders when you're working out. You start feeling good and you're like, dang, you know what? This is it. This is what I was supposed to do. It feels right. So again, you're feeding that part of yourself, and your soul, you want to make sure and keep that love around you, keep those things, because again, all of that helps you create a very strong and healthy foundation so that you can continuously build and move and move and move, because next thing you know, you have this really beautiful place that you've built. And the only reason why you were able to build it is because you set those foundations. If you didn't do that, there's no way any of that would be possible. You created the positive foundation for yourself, for your work, what you do, the hobbies, everything that feeds you, the relationships, the people around you. And when you hit that point, ultimately, where you can stand back and you look at what you've created, I think it's a really beautiful thing. A really, really beautiful thing. And I know that at some point, not right now, I'm trying to rebuild and I'm trying to do my foundation as best as I can. And I know that I'm going to reach a certain point that I'm going to stand back and be so happy with what I've created and what the people around me have contributed in helping me to create. And I know I'm going to get that. I think there's a lot of peace, and it brings me a lot of peace in that, because for a while I didn't look at it that way. I didn't think, I couldn't think anything past where I was, where I've been. I was very stuck in the past for a lot of things, especially in the recent months. And I'm having to just learn to walk forward and realize that it's giving me strength. And it's helping me, again, create new foundations. I know I'm very repetitive in this episode of constantly saying that, but it's what this is about. And maybe even me saying it as much as I have through this episode, maybe it's kind of like drilled into your brain a little bit. And you're like, damn, maybe I do need to step back. Maybe I do need to rethink about the relationships I have, the people that I mess with, the things that I do, the stuff I find that's fun. Like, do I really find it fun? Like, what's up? Reassess everything. Look at it. Maybe your house needs a little update. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if you're not updating your house and you're not putting time into yourself and investing where you need to invest, I think you're stuck. And that's not what life's about. Life's not about being stuck in that one place. It's about moving forward to something beautiful. And, I was trying to think about some advice. Because, of course, every week I try to give you guys something to run off of, some sort of advice. And what I was coming down to, I wrote it down. So I'm going to read it to y'all. If you're looking to create new foundation for yourself, set clear goals, embrace change, seek support, and prioritize self-care. And you want to stay persistent while staying patient and open to learning and adapting along the way. I'll read it one more time. If you're looking to create new foundation for yourself, set clear goals, embrace change, seek support, prioritize self-care, and stay persistent while staying patient and open to learning and adapting along the way. I really hope you guys can take that, think about it, and just kind of run with it and spread that, because this is what's going to help us all move forward. Collectively, as people, as humans, it's going to help us move forward. Constantly create foundations. Set your goals. Be intentional about them. Embrace the change, as scary as it is, whether it's positive, negative, anything, especially on the negative side, I feel like. Because there's always, kind of like what we talked about last week, right? Like when I talk about there being beauty in the breakdown. As scary as that moment can be, I promise you there's something on the other side of that. Seek support. Never be afraid to ask for help. Never. Even if it's a shot to your ego, Your ego isn't shit. You need to let go of that. Your ego is your worst enemy. It will put you in positions that you have no business being in. It will put you on a solo island when you could have literally had an entire team with you. But because of your ego, you won't push past that. And now you're there by yourself. Get rid of that. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's so much strength in that. Prioritize your self-care. Put yourself first. Put your happiness, your love, everything that you need first. Be selfish. Be selfish, because if you can do that, you will be able to give it to somebody else. And then they will continue the cycle. You will constantly give, and then they will continue the giving. Move with that. Stay persistent and be patient. Don't give up. You don't see results right now. Doesn't mean you won't see results tomorrow. Doesn't mean you won't see results in 5 minutes. Keep it moving. Keep the train moving. I promise you. You keep feeding the coal. You keep feeding the train. It's going to keep moving down the track. And be open to learning and adapting. Because if you're open to learning and you get into this place, you accept it. You're accepting what the universe is showing you. You're accepting what the universe is trying to give you. Just let it flow. Be open with it. Like we talk about, right? Go where the water's willing to take you. Because sometimes if you just let it go, let it take you somewhere, you're going to end up in the most beautiful place that you never saw or thought possible. And adapt. Shit goes south. Run with it. Step back. Say, okay, take a deep breath. Keep it moving. I got to adjust. And then keep it going. The more you can kind of go about life that way and just go with the flow, keep it moving, wherever life's trying to take you, wherever the universe is trying to push you, it's not going to seem so hard. Don't fight the current so much. Because again, I think certain things are predestined. And I think we're meant to go down certain paths. That's why things feel easier at times. Even if it feels random, it's like, you almost feel like this is where I'm supposed to be situation. Let life do that. Let it unfold the things for you. Don't work so hard. Because it's all there. It's all there for us to find. New paths, new things, new people, new places. Go with it. Let life take you there. And I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was something that you can take from. I hope you can start conversations with the people around you, your friends, your family, coworkers, whatever. Talk about it. And come back to me. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a text, give me a call, anything like that. You can also leave me a voicemail on here too, which is really cool, like through the podcast. So if you guys have something you want to say, you want to talk about it more, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Because honestly, I love those conversations that have been started and that have honestly developed these really beautiful relationships. So again, thank you guys for your love, your support, everything that you constantly give me every single week. I'm very, very fortunate and appreciative of every single one of y'all. So thank you again. And I will catch you guys on the next one.